Hey HAA, and welcome to 2021. Normally we would launch the year off with a big party we call the installation gala, where there's handshaking and hugging and rubbing shoulders on the dance floor and breathing on each other. Obviously had to postpone that for at least a few months due to the recent surge in coronavirus cases, but we hope this video will give you kind of an exciting preview of what to expect this year. First off, I hope that everybody had a restful holiday break, recovering and recharging from what was a pretty crazy year in 2020. Last year really reminded me a lot of my first time I ever went skiing. I was probably 12, 13 years old, and my family took a ski trip to Colorado with some friends. And I never skied before, it was my first time, so we got out there and my friends kind of taught me the basics on the bunny hills and the really easy slopes of how to carve left and carve right and snowplow to slow yourself down. And I was getting pretty comfortable, and they were kind of tired of being on the bunny slopes, so we went up to the top of the mountain on the big lift to the very top, and then they took us over to this run that had a couple big black diamonds on it, and I don't know what that meant, but the name of the run was like Hell's Canyon Death Hole or something like that. And so it was extremely steep. So me being a new skier went off the edge of that, and I felt like I went from 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds, and immediately head over heels, poles flying everywhere, skis coming off, yard sail, snow's flying everywhere, absolute disaster. And so kind of gathered myself and got my equipment back together, and friends are going down, so I started going back down again. Got another 15, 20 feet and immediately head over heels again. Snow everywhere, I got snow all over my goggles, I can't see anything. But got all my stuff together and started making progress, going back down again, and just repeated that process over and over and over, kind of tumbling down the hill. Well, I got about halfway down the slope, and every time I got a little bit farther before wrecking again, and then the moguls started. And if you've never skied before, moguls are these things where they take a perfectly smooth ski slope that's nice to go down, and then on purpose build these mounds or hills called moguls, or little obstacles that I guess if you're a really good skier, you can have fun kind of gracefully bouncing down the hill in between the moguls. But for the rest of us, you hit that and it's an absolute disaster. You go kind of riding over the edge of one, and then it drops off and you crash head over heels, and then instead of landing on a nice smooth slope, you're landing on all these bumps and what feels like rocks in your back, and then get all your stuff together and start going down again. You go around one and tumble over again. So I proceeded to do that the rest of the way down the mountain until I finally caught up with my friends. And when I think back on 2020, that's a lot what it felt like. Just kind of crash after obstacle after crash. In January, when the year started out, I remember thinking that the most pressing issue that then President Clay Hicks and Christy Rodriguez and I were gonna have to solve was the retiring of our long-term executive director, Jeff Hall, and replacing him at HAA. And this coronavirus thing was this overseas problem that was, I don't know why we were talking about it so much. It wasn't really applicable here. Well, fast forward a couple of months, and that coronavirus thing that was over there blossomed into a global pandemic of biblical proportions, as we've all lived through. And then the response to that crisis developed into an economic collapse here, where our US GDP dropped by 33%, by a third, and our unemployment claims swelled to a record-breaking 20.5 million in a single quarter. And then if that wasn't enough, here in Houston especially, we dealt with an oil market crash where the price of oil went negative for the first time in history as far as I'm aware of. And then we had civil unrest sweep the nation as racial injustices were brought into the national spotlight after the killing of George Floyd. And then if that wasn't enough, we had a record-breaking 6 hurricanes slam the Gulf Coast and devastate so much of that region. And then if that wasn't enough, we had wildfires run rampant and burn almost 9 million acres of land. And if that was enough, we had a pretty dramatic and tumultuous election dominate the headlines for a good part of the year. And then here in the apartment industry specifically, we're dealing with eviction moratoriums and ever-changing legislation coming down the pipeline and PPE shortages, and it was a lot to deal with. And in the face of all that chaos, it would have been absolutely reasonable to expect the staff of HAA, its volunteer leaders, and its members to just batten down the hatches and go into hiding and kind of wait out the storm in a defensive position. Instead, I am extremely proud as I look back on last year and our industry and our organization's response to that crisis. At HAA, the staff and the leadership stepped up and engaged the situation in innovative ways and adopted what we do here, the services we provide to our members. We took our educational products and almost overnight transformed that into a virtual offering where people could take advantage of that ever important information at their home or offices where they were often kind of locked down. And our advocacy team really ramped up its efforts to make sure that our industry's interests were well represented in all the new ordinances and legislation coming down the pipeline. And then we also developed new community outreach projects to make sure that our residents and our citizens of Houston that lived in our communities were safe and cared for during that time. And all of that was done at the HAA level was fueled by the fighting spirit of our industry's frontline warriors. And by that I mean those team members and supplier partners with boots on the ground in our communities. I know at my company, Veritas, I watched our teams act quickly to adopt creative new ways to really step up to the challenge, not just survive the crisis, but thrive in the crisis. Our office staff quickly learned how to keep everything clean, and we had to shut down some of our amenities, but we learned how to lease virtually and do virtual tours and completely shift our business operations to accommodate the new environment. Our maintenance staff and housekeepers, everybody immediately integrated PPE protocols and COVID protocols into their jobs, which was more important than ever, serving our residents who often found themselves kind of locked and confined to their homes for the first time. And then our supplier partners adopting their services and keeping our teams safe at our Veritas communities. And I would be remiss to not give a shout out to Jackie, Britton, Laura, my wife Caitlin, and the entire Veritas team as they really took on so much more responsibility last year so that I could in turn volunteer so much of my time at HAA with then President Clay Hicks and Christy Rodriguez and the staff and our executive committee navigating those difficult waters last year. So now the question on everybody's mind, what's next? What do we have to expect for 2021? Is this going to be a repeat? Are we going to have some new challenges? And it's impossible to know. If there's anything we learned from 2020 is that we don't know what's around the corner and specifically what's going to come at us, but we have to be agile and be able to respond. But here are a few things we do know we can count on. First off, vaccines. Multiple vaccines are rolling out as we speak throughout the nation and really across the globe, which will help to heavily curb the number of cases that our healthcare system is having to deal with. We're seeing businesses like ours adapting and pivoting and learning how to operate in this new environment that we're in, where the wheels of our economy are starting to turn again, starting to grind again, and that's going to trickle down into every area of our lives this year. I feel like the wind has hit our sails and we're moving forward again. We really got sucker punched in 2020, but we're getting ready to come back swinging in 2021. If you had a chance to read the article about me in the January Abode magazine, you know that I can be an unconventional leader. I'm an optimistic risk taker who's very comfortable being outside the box and doing things different. So that positive, offensive mindset is going to impact our approach at everything we do at HAA this year as we launch what I'm dubbing the comeback season. We all recognize the diversity of the learning and social preferences of our members. We have some people who don't want to take a risk on any unnecessary human interactions, social interactions. And we have others who are ready to be hugging again and they're tired of Zoom calls. And so we're going to have to get even more proficient at educating our members virtually and making that an effective experience. And we'll also push to restore our in-person learning and face-to-face interactions and networking opportunities as soon as we safely can. This year, we're going to work hard to keep our members updated with the most up-to-date legal and legislative developments that are sure to come down the pipeline. One of the ways we're going to do that is a monthly legal lowdown seminar or session each month where our own Howard Book staff will be kind of rounding up all the changes that happened that month, presenting them to our membership in a digestible way, and how we'll be able to figure out how this applies to us. And by the way, the first one of those is coming up quick on January 7th, so get signed up for that. Our government affairs team will continue to defend our interests in the tumultuous political environment we're going to find ourselves in and make sure that our industry is protected. At HAA, we'll continue to invest in technological developments and infrastructure that will create a more seamless member interaction with HAA and our members. And that's just a couple practical examples of how comeback season is going to look here at HAA. I don't know what's around the corner, and I don't specifically know which obstacles we're going to face, but I am confident that with our energetic executive committee, our amazing HAA staff led by the fantastic new Casey Morgan as our CEO, and the incredible army of passionate volunteers we have here at HAA, I'm confident that we'll be able to get the end of this year and be able to look back proudly at our accomplishments and what we got through this year and how we handle ourselves. To wrap this all up, I was reading a quote the other day from Arnold Schwarzenegger that said, "Strength does not come from comfort. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength." And so when you think about it, like, you don't get stronger or lose weight or get more fit by sitting in comfort on the couch, right? You get stronger and faster and leaner and better by going through pain at the gym or by exercising. And so 2020 was hard. That was a lot to go through, but I know it has made us all stronger, sharper, smarter, and better because of it. And we're ready to come back swinging in 2021. So I'm excited to be your president this year. It's going to be a fantastic year as we launch comeback season. So let's go crush it, and I look forward to the rest of this year. Thanks, guys. All right, good job, guys. That was awesome. Looking forward to sending this out.